Sheepdog, before we get going on today's podcast episode, I wanted to ask you something. Are you interested in getting promoted? Or maybe not right now, but you know that it's coming up in the near future? Well, I created something for you. I created a free training with the top 5 skills every police officer must have in order for them to get promoted. And so I wanted to share that with you really quickly. If it's something that you want to do, it's a free training, it's an audio. So it's essentially just like this podcast, and it is accompanied with a checklist so that you can literally print it out, put it in your duty bag, and you can start building these skills right here, right now. That's going to get you promoted quickly. If it's something you're interested in, go down, hit the show notes, click the link below, and get your training. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to Sheepdog Nation Podcast, the only place on the internet where law enforcement and their families can come to be understood, supported, and stood up for. Here's your host, the always entertaining, down-to-earth, yet in-your-face truth speaker and Leo herself, Autumn Schmidt.
What is up, Sheepdog Nation? Welcome to another episode of the Sheepdog Nation with your host, me, Autumn Schmidt. Very excited to have you here as always. Today's topic we're going to be diving into is how to not be a basic cop. Not really, how to stand out. And this topic comes from, honestly, it comes from years of my own experience of sitting back and kind of watching the dynamics of law enforcement, and now having the ability to lead kick-ass, transformational police officers in the Sheepdog family group. Like they're fucking awesome. And they're like hungry. They're hungry to be the best. Like they're hungry to change their lives. And there's nothing more refreshing to me than that. And so I was sitting here and I've been thinking about okay, so what's the formula? Because you don't really see that a lot, like in law enforcement. You don't see it in the culture, especially now, where we're just continuously feeling like we're getting kicked down and beat down. Like, how do you stand out? How do you be, not just another basic bitch, right? That's being sarcastic, kind of. And so I want to kind of talk with you about that. And so here are some ways to know if you're just being a basic cop. If you're just handling your calls to service, you're being a basic cop. If you haven't cleaned your weapon in well over a month, if you have not shined your shoes, if you have not pressed your uniform, if you have not shined your duty belt in over a month, basic. If you're not stepping out every single day and doing something to change and transform your mind and up-level you, whether that's attending trainings, reading books, listening to audibles, if you're not doing these things, if you're not putting yourself around people who will bring you up, you're staying basic, man. You're staying basic. Listen, Tony Robbins, this is a direct quote from Tony Robbins. And if you don't know who he is, take a moment and YouTube him. And he changed my life. He helped me reinvent myself on one of my worst days ever of, getting told that I can no longer be a police officer anymore. He really helped me reinvent myself. And so here I am today. But he says that we are either growing or we're shrinking. And this isn't physically, and that there's actually no plateauing. So if you're not growing and expanding and transforming and moving up that ladder, moving and up leveling, you're not just standing still. You're actually shrinking, you're going down. And I agree with that, because I want you to take a step back and think about all the times, all of the people that you're around. And if you're not around but amazing people who are positive, inspirational, they inspire you, they're always training, they're always trying to get to the next level, they're always trying to and it's not always just try to be the best, they're just always trying to be the best version of themselves. That's key. Write that down. Screenshot that shit in your head. They're not trying to be the best. They're trying to be the best version of themselves. And here's like another little fun fact. If you go when you YouTube Tony Robbins interview, and you can listen to him talk about Michael Jordan, and Michael Jordan says this. He says that, Tony, everyone is out there trying to be better than me. They're trying to beat me. And he goes, the only reason I'm who I am today is because I was never in competition with anybody else. I was only in competition with the best version of me. And because of that, nobody could touch me. I really want you to think about that, because he's just like, it's amazing. What an amazing concept. Like, how aware of himself is he to know that? And so I would like to press upon that to you, because in law enforcement, we tend to be very competitive. We tend to go and be in this very egotistic mindset. We need to compete. We need to be better. We need to be the best. I'm asking you to take a step back and just change your perspective a little bit. Be the best version of you. And how do you do that? Well, you start by not being basic. You do the things that you know you need to do, that you just stopped. Somewhere along the way, you just stopped. Don't be the cop. Don't be the officer that always has something to say to somebody, your fellow officers. Don't be that cop. Don't be the cop that always is shitting on other people. Don't be the cop that's always, busting everyone else's balls. Don't do that. There's no respect there. And how are you showing that you're actually intelligent? I will never understand this. The most intelligent, squared away officers, yeah, they'll shoot the shit a little bit, of course. That's culture. That's what we do. It's the nature of our jobs. But the most squared away officers do not spend their time shitting on other people, coming up with jokes, razzing everyone, getting their last words in. They don't do that. The most squared away officers, they know who they are. They're secure with themselves. And the reason why they are like this, it doesn't just, and because I want to stop you from going down on the hamster wheel right now, because you're going, because you're thinking about somebody in your head and you're comparing yourself, and now you're shitting on yourself because you're like, yeah, I'll never be like them. It's never going to work for me. Like, I'll never be like them. I'm never going to be squared away. They are so secure. I'm not super secure. And this is obviously a conversation in your mind. You will never admit this to anybody. You might admit it to me, but that will probably be it, right? Totally cool. At least you can just be aware of it. Because, even when I was on the road, full time, there was things that I was not totally great at, like OUIs. Those, just as well as I do, you either have an act for it or you don't. And that's it. And you either really enjoy them or you don't. But the problem is if you do not enjoy them, what happens? You know what happens. You get less and less good at them. You come out of the academy and you could spot a fucking OUI 2 miles away, right? And you could, the moment you pull up, you could just see the signs and da-da-da-da. And I'm not saying you can't as a veteran. I'm just saying that you, if it's not something that if you don't love it, then you're not focused there, and you're not making yourself better. And that's how it is, right? Because then I became pretty, insecure about it. Not because I couldn't do it, but just there was other officers who loved it. They loved doing OUIs. And so when they would come on my stops, I'm like, damn, I don't know, and you start kind of second guessing yourself a little bit. I'm asking you to learn from my experience and don't stay in this spot. You go there, whether it's with OUIs, whether it's with drug investigations, whatever it is, trafficking cases, whatever, who knows? We run the gamut. It could be anything. It's different for everybody. But here's what I'm saying to you. You need to know what you're not great at, and that's fine, because you're human and you're not going to be the best at everything. But focus at what you're really fucking great at and go all in. That's a quote directly from Gary Vaynerchuk. He is, if you're unfamiliar with him, he's somebody I follow because he is a very, very successful, self-made, multi-millionaire. And he started out growing a wine shop for his dad. And then he turned it into an online wine library. And now I don't even know. Now he does so much stuff. He has like his own he runs, like he does his social media for like Toyota and like Pepsi and like all the big brands. And he does all this other shit. But his philosophy is this, because everyone wants to know, Gary, how are you the best? Because he's the best. He is the best. This is what's cool about this guy, is that he like will forecast what's going to happen in social media and before it ever even happens. And then it happens. And the cool thing is he puts it in his books. So then like you go read his books and you're like, shit, like, damn, he was right. But here's what I want to say. That guy is just very self-aware of who he is. And I want to pass that along to you. He's just so aware of who he is that he doesn't spend time dwelling on the things that he's not good at and who he's not. He just doesn't. He's incredibly compassionate. He's incredibly empathetic. He's highly driven, highly motivated, and he knows everything there is to know about running a business, scaling a business, and he knows everything there is to know about social media, hands down. He knows nothing about being a cop, right? He knows nothing about shooting a gun. He knows nothing about being a sheepdog. But he'll sit there and tell you, my flaws, I don't even focus on them. And he goes, that's where everyone messes up, is they focus on their flaws. He's like, I can't understand that. Why not know what you're really, really good at naturally and then go all in on that and become the best? And I have to say this, like, I totally agree with that. Now, part of me is like, well, especially in law enforcement, like we have to be good. Like you can't just suck at shooting your firearm and then be like, okay, I'm not going to practice that because Autumn said go all in on what I'm really good at. And I'm like really good at talking to people. No, I mean, we as police officers, we need to be very proficient at a lot of things and good at a lot of things. And I guess that's why the culture is the culture. You know, we live with our firearms. And if you're not practicing every day, all the time with your firearm, then that definitely could be problematic for you, right? And it's same thing with, you know, your handcuffing and blah, blah. You have got to make those skills good because those are the skills you went into becoming a police officer. You've got to make all of these skills, especially your self-defense skills. They've got to be high, and they've got to be way higher than the average citizen, right? But as far as what you're going to become on the job, I don't know if a lot of officers think about this. You know, we get into the job and we're like, oh, I can't wait. Like, I'm going to be the best police officer I can be. Like, I'm so excited. I'm going to go and I'm going to arrest the bad guys. And I'm going to do all these things. I'm going to get on the SWAT team. I'm going to be a canine handler. I'm going to go work drug interdiction. I'm going to be a detective, whatever. Right? Awesome. And I'm not making fun of any of us because this is totally me too. I'm totally describing myself. But then what happens is like we get here, right? And then we get sucked in. First year, 2 years on, you're totally sucked in. You know, you go out with all the guys, everybody's drinking, everybody's shooting the shit. Then it starts, everyone's talking shit. You don't like someone's attitude. Someone's trying to fuck you over. Now you're in competition with everybody because the fucking guys who've been on the road forever and ever, they're nothing but slugs in your mind. And the new guys, the FNGs, they don't know what the hell they're doing, right? Totally. I guarantee you're sitting here going, yeah, yeah. Even if you don't want to be, you know that you're agreeing because this is how we operate. But at what point past the 2-3 year mark do we sit there, take inventory of ourselves and say, hey, okay, I don't really want to blend in. I'm tired of blending in. I don't really want to, you know, just be a basic cop. I'm glad I'm a cop. I always wanted to be a cop. But I don't want to be a basic bitch. I don't want to blend in. I don't want to be compared to, you know, George, who's been on the job for 25 years. Like, I don't want to be on his level as far as I want to take my things to the next level. And what I mean is like being on the road, just a road cop, never got trained in anything highly. And he's good with that. And there's some officers that are totally, totally good with that. And I just want to say there is absolutely nothing, you know, nothing wrong with that at all. But this is This podcast specifically is for the sheepdog, for the cop who wants to go to the next level and who doesn't want to be a basic police officer. And so that's why you're listening to me. And so what do we do? All right, I'm going to give you some advice. Okay, I'm just going to kind of summarize what we talked about, but I'm going to give you some advice. You've really got to focus on what you are passionate about, what you're naturally good at. And after you listen to this episode, like, take a step back and really focus there and ask yourself, like, damn, like, what am I really good at? Like, what am I really good at? I'm really, like, my mom always said that I was a natural leader. Okay. And am I being a natural leader right now? Like, do the other officers gravitate towards me? How about, and if you're like, no, then be like, okay, well, am I a natural leader in society? Like, when I show up on scene, am I causing problems? Do people like automatically want to fight me? Or do I get there and do I solve problems? And do people like me? And do I get nice emails, or does the chief get nice emails about me? Do I, all these things, right? So are you a natural born leader? Are you a great communicator? Are you a natural problem solver? Do you really, really enjoy handling a dog? Are you really good at dogs? Or are you extremely passionate about it and you want to learn absolutely everything there is to know? Do you want to become the best DUI or OUI cop there is because you lost a friend to drinking and driving crash, and like, do you want to change that? Right? Like, ask yourself, what are you passionate about? And then what are you naturally good at? And then focus there. And don't just stop there, but don't just stop there. You need to go and take an inventory of yourself and take a look in the mirror and what has your attitude been like? And then what have you been doing? And how have you been going above and beyond? And how have you been helping people? And how have you kept your mind on the right track, or have you not? It's so easy to get sidetracked. It's so easy to get completely engulfed by negativity, by shit in this job. And I just want to tell you that there's nothing, you're not bad. You're not less than for finding yourself there. But I'm telling you, you're here with me for a reason. You've made it this far on this episode for a reason. Okay, I truly believe that. And we don't have to have the same religious views, but I don't believe in coincidences. I believe that everything happens for a reason. And you're here because you needed to hear what I had to say. You needed to get pushed. You needed a loving kick in the motherfucking ass from me to tell you it's time for you to kick everything up a level, kick it up a notch. That's what you are here for today. Don't be a basic police officer. Do the things you know you're supposed to do. Go above and beyond. Focus, hyper fucking focus on one thing and go all in there. Stop trying to be the world's best Superman patrol officer and SWAT officer and detective and supervisor. Like, no, like, you can't. You're spreading yourself out way too thin, and then you go home and you think you're going to have any kind of home life. Look, I want to tell you this story. So I'm in some law enforcement group. I don't fucking know what it is, and on Facebook, and it was a post and about an officer, and he said something that really meant a lot to me, and I want to reflect it back to you. And I'm in a lot of those cop groups. This one is not mine, but this one was somebody that I don't know. And he said, I'm retiring after 20 or 30 years on the job, and I'm going home to a son that I barely know, who is a freshman in college, to another son who no longer lives with me, but has graduated college. And I'm going home to a very unhappy and disgruntled wife. He says, officers, there is so much more to life than issuing citations and chasing the next promotion, chasing the next thing on your job. And if you're not careful, your entire life is going to go by and you don't even know what you're going to have to show for it, except a retirement party where you fucking hope everyone shows up, but you have no idea. And then after that retirement party, what do you have? And I have to just say that really, really, really put things into perspective for me. We spend our entire careers chasing what we think is going to make us the best, right? But we don't focus on what's true to us as well. In our foundations and our support systems. And that's why there is such a high divorce rate in law enforcement. That is why we are losing officers left and right to suicide, right? Because not only are the command staff and the political pressures of the job killing us, like come home, and if you don't have like the right support system, if you don't have somebody in your ear like me every day telling you, hey, listen, balance, 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 balance. If you don't have somebody teaching you how to focus your attention when you're at work and then when you go home and dropping it, if you don't have somebody reminding you all the time of this stuff, like you're going to eventually, the scale's going to tip and it's probably not going to be in your favor. And so instead of focusing on being the best at everything, sheepdog, take my advice. Go all in on exactly what you are so passionate about and what you are naturally good at. Just go all in on that one thing. Become the best. Get books, become this like sponge, absorb everything, be around the people, be around the person who's exactly like you want to be like. Go be around that person. Go be around the person who is a very well-respected leader in your agency. Get to know them, watch what they're doing, watch their attitudes, mimic them, because you need to mimic what works. You need to do all of the things, go all in on that one thing. But when you go home, go home. Okay? And here's the thing about when we get hyper-focused on where we're going, is that our spouses tend to like be able to help us and support us and get in on it when we're trying to do this one thing. For example, my husband, he's a canine handler, and we have Belgian Malinois. And when we got Ebo, it's his name, when we got Ebo, it kind of became this family thing between him and I. Because Adam wasn't trying to be the best at everything. He just wasn't at that time. He was trying to become the best dog handler that he could possibly be, because that's he knew. He knew himself well enough to be like, okay, I mean, if I want to be successful, then I'm going all in on this canine handling thing. Like, I'm not going to be a half-assed canine handler. I'm going all in. And we were able to go all in together. We have read so many books together. He's attended so many trainings. And when he comes home from the trainings, we discuss it, we apply it, we work together, and it's fun. Like, he trains the dog, but I get to be a part of the conversation. I get to, do the research with him. I get to be by his side. And so when we get our dog, when I get my own dog, like for my own personal reasons and maybe business reasons, hint, hint, I get to be a part of that. Does that make sense to you? And so we get to have these conversations, and it's helping him because he's becoming better, but it's also helping us as, a couple, as a team, because it's not, I don't feel like he's just doing all of this shit for himself and I don't get to be a part of it. Like, I have to go lay tracks. I have to, put the drugs on me, and Ebo's got to sniff them. You know what I'm saying? Or I have to go hide a bullet casing for article searches. Like, I watch him during obedience. Like, I do all of these things, and it's literally this team effort, and it is making him and Ebo a great canine team. It's making my husband a very good canine handler and trainer, and it's also helping us as a unit, because I can't tell you how good we both feel when we are both, because we're both very passionate about dogs. He's passionate, and it's helping his job. I'm passionate because I love dogs. I always have, taking this, on this new little business venture in the future. And so we get to come together and focus here. So you need to ask yourself how you can apply this. Maybe you are an avid CrossFitter, or, maybe you're a person who's just naturally, you got your shit together when it comes to eating and working out. Like, maybe that's what you're just so passionate about. And You want to bring that to your department, or you want to help other cops. And you get to do this with your spouse. Like you and your spouse, you guys get to go do CrossFit workouts together and then talk about it and listen to podcasts, read books, take trainings and involve them. And it's making you better, but involve them. And when you don't force them, but like you explain to them why like you're just so passionate about these things, I'm going to tell you something. They're if they love you, then they're going to fucking pretend that they're passionate about it too, or at least they're going to entertain the idea of supporting you and listening to your ideas and learning about it. I mean, maybe you're so passionate about OUIs, right? Well, the statistics and the facts are super interesting about that. Maybe like you get so good, you learn about the personality traits of somebody who always drives under the influence. Maybe not just the under influence of drugs, but of alcohol, but drugs too. Like maybe you develop this like character in your mind, right? Because you've read all the studies and you know the statistics plus your experience. Well, that's like so interesting. That is so interesting. And maybe that can be conversation that you bring in and you talk to your spouse with, and you guys and listen to what they have to say and their experiences, and let them say, oh yeah, because Eric from college, he's totally just like this. And I know he drives drunk all the time or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And involve them while you're hyper focusing on the things that you want to focus on that are going to make you a better police officer. Does that make sense to you? I know I gave you a ton of information here. So you may have to stop this and rewind and really understand and go over this. But this is the key, sheepdog. This is the key. If you want a healthy, very successful career and not being a basic cop, plus you want the healthy marriage as well, this is the key. So many times we're like, we need to separate, but the truth is, and we all fucking know it, you just can't. You're not going to come home and pretend like you're just this normal human being. You're just not. Doesn't matter. Look at my Instagram. I mean, I'm a police officer all the time, even though I don't even work full time anymore because I have an injury. Doesn't matter. Still a cop, right? And so if you're a full-time cop, there's no way you're turning that off. No way. You may think you are, but I bet your spouse and your friends will tell you something completely different. And so let's stop fighting the good fight of trying to separate it, and let's just kind of integrate it. Let's just do something a little more innovative, and let's do it on purpose. If you guys have questions, I want you to come on to my Instagram at TheLadySheepdog, and you can DM me. This podcast episode is extremely powerful, and I'm very passionate about it. It's also what I want to tell you is if you are interested on going to the next level, you want to get promoted, then what you want to do is you want to hit in the show notes, there's going to be a link, and it's a free training for you on how my top 5 ways for you to get in line to become promoted next. If you want to get promoted, there's 5 things you've got to do, and you've got to have your shit squared away. And so I made a free training for you. It's like your own personal podcast. Plus there's a checklist that goes along with it. So all you got to do is click the link below, get on that. This is just, again, that's just going to take you to the next step. It's going to be the next thing for you. And it's going to be awesome. All right, Sheepdog Nation, I'll see you next time.
And that was another episode of Sheepdog Nation. If you enjoyed this podcast, please go to iTunes and let us know by giving us a rating. If you have questions that you want answered by Autumn in the podcast, submit it by going to the link in the show notes. As always, stay safe and watch your 6.